Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, great conspiracy for you today. Let's just hit it. You can get sick from the flu shot. The flu shot causes autism. Flu shot doesn't work. It's full of mercury and thimerosal, and it can kill you. Let's swing it all together with a nice, good conspiracy theory that the government wants to control us, that big pharma has all these flu shots. They want to make money on us, and we're these lab experiment guinea pig people that really don't need a flu shot. It doesn't do very much anyway. And you've got the anti-flu shot vaccination conspiracy theory. Today, we're going to get into that one. I'm Dr. Larry Burchett, MD, practicing ER physician. This is the COVID Weekly, powered by Averpoint.com. You can always review all of the evidence at Averpoint.com. I'm going to tell you at the end of this video what we're going to get into next week. Let's just start with the first one. You can get the flu from the flu shot. Is that true? We're going to get into these. These are myths. I like to call them lies. Not true. It's actually impossible to get influenza, to get a viral infection of the flu from the flu shot. The first reason, let's talk about how the vaccine is made. They actually are still using eggs, which even if you have an egg allergy, is not considered to be allergic. Although if you've had a reaction to a prior flu shot, you wouldn't want to get it. But they inject the virus into eggs. You know, they've selected the right versions, H1N1, 3 different versions of the flu that they want to replicate. And then when they extract it, this is the key, they kill the virus either by heating it up or by chemical means. So the virus is dead. The flu shot that gets injected into your arm is a dead version of the influenza virus. Dead viruses are not going to give you influenza. It's not like a couple of them sneak by and can make you sick. So you cannot get influenza from the flu shot. Now, plenty of people tell me I get a little sick afterwards. I can get a low-grade fever. Maybe 5 or 10% of children with their other vaccinations can get a fever. People have, maybe up to a third of people have flu-like symptoms and stuff like that. There's some interesting things that I looked up on that. And the first one I want to share with you is they did a study where they tracked these 2 markers of the immune response, TNF-alpha, and this other one called MIF, macrophage migrating inhibition factor. Just know that those are general markers of the immune system. And they checked them on days 0, 1, 2, and 3 after somebody was given a flu shot. And what they found was, for the people that did have symptoms, it corresponded with those levels of those immune markers going up. In other words, what people were feeling was their immune system mounting an immune response to the flu shot, which is exactly what you would expect. It's going to go away in a day or 2. It's not harmful. Now, what we want the flu shot to do is to generate antibodies. We don't want it to necessarily generate TNF-alpha unless that recruits antibodies to then be generated. And so it's an unintended side effect. These things that people feel could be a low-grade fever, whatever. I think in this particular study corresponded from a temperature of 98.0 to 98.9. Not a real 103 fever of influenza. And now remember, this is not getting influenza. It's not getting the flu from the flu shot. It's having a normal immune reaction to the flu vaccine, okay? Those are 2 different things. So on the one hand, there does seem to be some science to people feeling symptoms and side effects from this. Every year I get it, my arm is sore for a couple days. That's the main kind of proven thing. It's kind of duh, because you get a shot in your arm. Now, there's some really interesting studies going back to the 90s, 91 and 96. And I want to tell you about this one because this really challenged a lot of people, even thinking there were any reactions at all to flu vaccinations. This one is a 96 study by Nickel, where they looked at 849 people and they split them up into 2 groups. And they gave one group the flu shot, and they gave another one placebo. And what they found when they asked them about these symptoms was that they both, about 30% of each group, complained of similar symptoms, kind of body aches and fatigue and flu-like stuff. In other words, the people that just got water or saline, the placebo, they actually didn't get the flu vaccination. They complained just as much as the folks that got it. Now, what does that mean? Either everybody got a cold, they got some virus independently of this, or it's the power of the mind. When you get a flu shot, enough people think that it's going to make them sick. Now, this actually kind of replicated a similar flu shot versus placebo trial in 1991. I think there's an element probably for some people that getting the flu shot makes them ill that doesn't bear out in studies. That probably is kind of a negative placebo effect. Interesting stuff, right? Okay, number 2, the flu shot causes autism. No, the flu shot does not cause autism. Vaccines do not cause autism. I'm not going to go into it much more than that, but there's 20 years of research that goes back, and it's been replicated time and time and time again. We'll just narrow this on the flu shot. The flu shot does not cause autism. Now let's get into number 3. The flu shot does have thimerosal, a mercury-containing compound. Now, some people have said, well, this is how the flu shot causes autism. 20 years ago, they took thimerosal out of all pediatric vaccines, and it's not there anymore in the shots we give kids. What is thimerosal? Thimerosal is an organic compound. It contains mercury. Now, this is an important distinction here because, as you know, mercury found in fish can build up into toxic levels, cause symptoms and various dysfunction in the body. Certainly don't want too much mercury. But the kind of mercury that's found in fish that causes these problems is methylmercury. It's a different kind of mercury than is in thimerosal, which is ethyl mercury, that M. Methyl is the fish one. Ethyl mercury, the body's able to excrete and eliminate without much problem. It doesn't build up to toxic levels. And the thimerosal that was used that did contain mercury, all of these studies has found to be safe. Now, thimerosal is still in flu shots. Some have it, some do not. If it's important to you, find one that doesn't have it. But all of the studies that have been done looking at this with regulations and tracking things have found thimerosal to be a very safe preservative. Why is it there in the first place? Because when you make a flu shot and you put it in a vial, that can grow bacteria, fungi, and can get infected. Those can cause worse problems. So the preservatives are used to keep it free of other bacteria. But there is nothing wrong. There has not been evidence of, certainly not autism, other neurodegenerative diseases or complications from thimerosal. So don't worry about that. I know it can sound scary, but science studies it and it looks for complications and problems, and there isn't that. Feel free to look it up. Again, go to avropoint.com and check out the data that I'm going to give you about thimerosal. Number 3, the flu shot itself can kill you. And it can have potentially life-threatening, serious reactions. Now, that's true. You might be surprised to hear that there's 2 of them that I want to excuse me. Sorry about that. There's 2 of them that I want to mention here. One is you can have what's called an anaphylactic reaction to a flu shot, or really, really serious allergic reaction where the blood pressure drops or you get swelling and you can't breathe. That is true. What's the incidence of that? How often does that happen? It's like less than 1 or 2 in a million. And if that happens, you can go to the ER. I can treat you with an EpiPen and a Benadryl, and it will go away and you will be fine. So it's very treatable. So yes, there is a potential life-threatening allergic reaction from this, and it's 1 in a million, and it's treatable. Now, the other one that people talk about a lot is Guillain-Barré, similar, which is a degenerative neurologic condition. Most people recover, some do not. It can be very serious. Similarly, there is an association with flu shots. It's thought to be 1 or 2 in a million. And it's also thought to be similar to if you actually get influenza, you can develop this from the virus. You get the flu shot, you don't get the virus. It's the same risk either way. Very small, 1 to 2 in a million. But it's true to admit that there are some, very, very rare, that's what we would call rare. 1 in a million is rare. It's more common to get struck by lightning kind of things. You take that into account when evaluating the risks and benefits. Is the benefit of getting the flu shot for you and the community worth the risks? You tabulate all this stuff. The answer is yes. Above 6 months on to folks that are old. So there you go. That's you may not have known that, but again, so rare, I wouldn't focus on and worry about that. All right, the fifth thing that we wanted to get to, the flu shot isn't very effective and it's a waste of time. How effective do you think the flu shot is? 100%? 10%? It's true. If you look at the CDC, the flu shot, you could say it isn't very good. On the average year, it's 40 to 60% effective. Meaning if everybody got it in the whole population, those that were exposed to influenza in a significant way, about half of them would still get it or would get a lesser version of it, but still it wouldn't be 100% protective, somewhere in that 40 to 60 range. Some people hear that like, wow, that's terrible. Now, it's not 100%, I'll give you that. But the reason it makes sense is, when we're talking about deaths from influenza, we're talking anywhere from 20 to 60,000 per year. I think in 2017-18, which was a particularly bad flu year, the worst in the last 10 years, 61,000 people died of influenza. If you have a vaccine that's 50% effective and everybody gets it, that could potentially save 30,000 lives. So that kind of puts it into context where, it's not going to prevent all 60,000 deaths, but in a bad year, it can make a big difference. Now, let's take last year, for example. The CDC also runs these numbers where they estimate the benefits of flu shots. It's not just deaths. Don't forget, people stay home from work, they get sick, they're miserable, they end up in the hospital, which even if they survive and don't die, they could be in a nursing home after that. There's a lot of problems that come from it, not just tallied with the death mark. Last year, there were thought to be the flu shot was thought to help prevent 7 million cases of influenza, prevent 100,000 hospitalizations, and to prevent 6,000 deaths. So as a doctor, the reason I want to encourage people, including you, to get it is to raise those are all great things. We prevented 7 million infections, 100,000 hospitalizations, 6,000 deaths. Get a flu shot and you'll be part of the people that are preventing even more deaths, hospitalizations, and infections, not just for yourself and those around you, community, but especially those most vulnerable, elderly. And then with the flu, it's the young also. Interesting studies I saw in there, how kids, pediatric kids that got really sick with the flu shot, once they ended up in the ICU, if they'd had the flu shot, 75% more likely to survive and not get as sick. Similarly, older folks who have had the flu shot, when they get really sick, 80% more likely to survive and get out of there than those without. So think about it for children too. Helps those kids that get really sick to survive. Now, one final thing. So there you go. Can you get sick from the flu shot? Can you get influenza from the flu shot? No, it's not possible. Can you have some symptoms? Yeah, it corresponds with your immune system responding, but it's not viral influenza, and it'll go away in a day or two. Doesn't cause autism. Thimerosal is safe. Thimerosal is safe. These lives that would be saved are significant. It's worthwhile. Do your part. It's kind of great. Let me just say this, one little extra bit. we're in the middle of COVID. The last thing we need is one more virus to dump into the system and to overwhelm everything. This is another one of these do your part things, get a flu shot, keep that thing out. I do think that wearing masks and distancing, the places that are doing it, is going to make a difference, and we're going to see lower rates of the flu. But man, can you imagine dumping influenza on top of COVID? Oh my God. I get stressed out thinking about that. Puts, when we're talking about, this is kind of crazy, we're talking about 60,000 people dying of influenza in a season. We've already had in 6-7 months over 200 and I don't even know what the number is, 30,000, 240,000 people dying of COVID. It's easily, 4 times the worst flu season we've had in the last 10 years. COVID really puts this thing in perspective. I still think you should get a flu shot. I still think that's worth it. But if you want to do something that really makes a difference with other people living and not dying, do your part, be responsible, socially distance, wear a mask in the middle of COVID. That's a bigger bang for your buck than a flu shot. I already got my flu shot. Happy to get it and do that as well, and stay safe generally, and also to do my part and to, not get any blood on my hands for being out there circulating the virus while in the middle of this COVID. But these numbers with the flu, I think it really reinforces how much bigger a deal COVID is. There you have it. That's my argument debunking these lies about the flu shot. I think next week, this is coming on the heels of the Pfizer vaccine that is 90% effective. We're going to talk more about vaccines. I think I'm just going to go right at it. I'm going to get into the research about how the controversy of the vaccines cause autism. We're going to jump into that for you next time. Thanks for watching. You can review the evidence at averpoint.com. If you got this far, give me a shout out on social media and let me know what you thought. And as always, take care of yourself. Stay safe. Stay safe. Stay sane, and do your part. I'll see you next time.